So I'm now joined by Miya Tokumitsu. She is a contributing editor at Jacobin and the author of Do What You Love and Other Lies About Success and Happiness. Miya, welcome to the Jacobin Show.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
So in 2014, you, of course, wrote a pretty viral article for Jacobin called In the Name of Love. This you turned into your book, Do What You Love. And in this article, you sort of identified and critiqued what you call the Do What You Love ideology. You have a really great line in the article where you write something like, do what you love is capitalism's most perfect ideological tool. I love that. We will get into exactly how that has evolved. But first, can you kind of start us off by talking a little bit about what exactly Do What You Love is? I suspect that lots of people who are watching are probably quite familiar with your article, but how is it capitalism's most perfect ideological tool?
Wow. So getting right to the heart of it. Yes. So I think it's Do What You Love is a mantra that I think has a kind of mysterious origin, but began circulating in the cultural stew, I guess, probably sometime in the 90s and then into the aughts. And then became, I think, a kind of moralistic, but also aspirational, framing of work and why we are motivated to do work. And by work, really, I mean the work we do in the marketplace for an income. I think it could be, and the reason why this mantra was so popular, I think, is because it could mean so many things to so many different people. And for, people who I think were college educated or maybe in college and thinking about entering the workforce from that place, or in graduate programs, let's say, it was a kind of guiding tool. Like, what should I do? And Do What You Love is kind of a way of almost masking the embarrassing fact that people go to work because they need to earn an income in order to feed themselves and put a roof over their heads. But it also took on, I think I touched on a little bit, this like moralistic tone. It's like, if you are a good person to yourself, you're going to do what you love, and you can't be happy if you do what you love. So it was really this idea that through the paid work you do in the marketplace, there were all of these kind of spiritual benefits to yourself. Like you can only really like achieve personal fulfillment if you were on this like particular quest to do work what you love. And it really it masked to the very people who are kind of entering into these exploitative work environments the fact that they were working under systems of control and all under conditions that they themselves didn't really have a say over.
I want to follow that up by asking, if you can remember, what compelled you to write this article during this time? And just by, my way of kind of getting at it, the reason why your article really resonated with me in 2014, and I suspect with a great number of, millennials who had kind of graduated into the, height of the recession, is when your article came out, I was living in New York. I wanted to work in publishing. So I had worked all of these horrible jobs, some internships, which of course, you mentioned in your piece, they don't pay, but they're kind of the epitome of do what you love, right? It's a way to get your foot in the door, to do work that you think will be sort of intellectually and morally and creatively satisfying to you. And so what I'm getting at is, I was working in publishing at what was honestly like one of the worst jobs I've ever had. It was long hours, terribly paid. I wasn't treated well, but I was like, this is what I think I want to do with my life. And when your article came out, I think, I had been thinking about a lot of these things, but you had sort of articulated it perfectly where something clicked and I was like, oh, like this is actually a terrible job. And, this mantra of do what you love is actually really pernicious insofar as it works to obscure all of these, kind of unsavory elements of work. So again, this is just to ask, what made you write the piece in 2014?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was precisely that moment. So I had finished graduate school. I was not at that point entering the workforce directly, but I was seeing, people like yourself, and it just seemed like everyone, my cohort, people that I went to university with, college, it was just, I think there was this expectation that, college, especially the 4-year degree, was kind of like you had to get through that, and then that would like deliver you directly into a career. And I think that the way that work was, I don't want to say presented, because I don't feel like anyone that I studied with, like any faculty members, like gave me a false idea of like what going to work every day would be like. But I think the way that, in college, we all imagined work would be was just different than what the reality was. And of course, it was this kind of moment in 2014, especially where the 2008 crash had happened. University was getting more expensive. People were investing more kind of not just money, but also hope and expectation and hard work, and coming out into like this world of really low paid entry level jobs, a lot of internships you had to get a low paid entry level job. And it just seems that this picture of work where, we would have salaries and benefits and like the ability to, purchase homes and things like that, seemed still achievable, but I think farther off than most people expected. But then there was also this, do what you love. Well, this is worth it because I am being somehow true to myself by going to, an internship every day. I don't know. It just, right. I think at that point, the contradictions were starting to build enough that I started toying around with this idea, and then the article came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because I think during this same time period, the cultural stew, as you referred to it a little while ago, also saw the rise of WeWork, right? So I always think of WeWork as kind of the, this massive symbol of do what you love. I mean, they literally had do what you love in WeWork offices, like painted on the walls.
Painted on the wall, yes.
Right? Yeah. Like they literally were like, we're not like shying away from this. And of course, WeWork just as a business model was about kind of catering to like the flexible, now we might say precarious, but like the flexible freelancer who isn't tied down to like a stodgy office job, but instead is doing what they love, whether that's graphic design or writing or, whatever. That's why they need a little WeWork cubicle. And then also during this time period, I think you also saw the rise of Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In, right? Which was very much, I think, about sort of looking at inequalities or hurdles that particularly women faced in the workplace, and then kind of being like, well, the way to get over those is to apply yourself even more to the work. So I think that was kind of the mentality, or that was kind of the ascendant ideology when you wrote this article. But part of the reason why I wanted to bring you onto the Jacobin show kind of a few years down the line is because I've noticed sort of since then, I've at least felt like things have shifted a little bit. So like we of course saw the very spectacular implosion of WeWork. So that's basically now gone. I think that Lean In has been criticized quite a lot, and very fairly, not just by the left, although obviously that began on the left, but in mainstream media as well. And the thing that I think sort of is most interesting to me is if you follow kind of professional managerial class work advice, which, like, full disclosure, I do, I noticed that there has been a shift from kind of this, the work advice is less now about, pursuing a dream job, like leaning in, getting ahead, and it actually now seems to focus more on things like work-life balance, self-care. I actually have seen, multiple articles in like The Atlantic, The New York Times, even the Wall Street Journal over, the last couple of months about how you really shouldn't attach your identity to your job. That's, psychologically bad for you. It'll burn you out. There are lots of articles, over the last few years about burnout. So I guess the question for you is like, I don't think that the do what you love mentality has completely disappeared by any means, but in what way has it evolved over the last several years?
Yeah, so much in that. Well, first of all, like WeWork, I mean, I think I'm so glad you brought that up because I think WeWork, going back to that moment in which the article was written and which WeWork was really on the rise, I think I didn't address WeWork directly, but if you think about those workspaces and the whole like vibe of WeWork, it really did play on all of the like things that people are like, all of the positive things that people thought work would be. So it would be social. It would be like you're going to like a cool like cafe every day because it wasn't there like free like cold brew or whatever.
Yeah, and by the way, I also want to add, I don't think that this took off, but do you remember in the like waning days of WeWork, the CEO was like, "We're trying to start We Live" or something like that, which was like, yeah, exactly. It was like just a seamless blend of work, life, play, cold brew, beers on tap, 24/7 capitalism.
Yeah, like everyone you worked with would be cool and someone you wanted to hang out with all the time. And like you wanted to be in the same apartment building with them. And like, they were also starting schools and trying to build like these like entirely immersive communities. But I do think that those things, I mean, as much as we can kind of look askance at them now, are like, if you think of a young person, again, like entering the workforce, that is really, really, really appealing. And the fact that, you go to work every day and, maybe, the kind of people they're imagining like don't have caring responsibilities yet. And you just kind of like bounce ideas around with cool people and then get some coffee and then like get a beer and then like hang out after. Yeah, it's totally, I mean, I understand the appeal. Unfortunately for WeWork, that's all it was just that that image. Lean in, I think, is really fascinating. And actually before this conversation, I took a light tour around Lean In's website. And yeah, I think you can really see just by looking at Lean In's website today, how much it changed from like the rollout of Sheryl Sandberg's book. So first of all, the person of Sheryl Sandberg is much de-emphasized on the Lean In website. And I think that's a significant change. I think the air has gone out on the messianic executive figure. I think kind of
the girl boss.
There it is. Yes. But Sandberg's face was on the cover of that book. She was like everywhere. And I think also now like everyone's mad at Facebook too, but she is like this kind of white executive billionaire, I think isn't a figure that really resonates so much with people anymore. So she's present on the site, but she's not like the first thing you see when you click on. And also I think Lean In really, they heard a lot of the criticism. And so if you look at Lean In's website now, there's like a lot of things about workshops on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace. So yeah, they heard that, not every woman is able to just kind of triple down on their work ethics and reap the same rewards. And interestingly, there are also apparently some Lean In circles for women in trades, like building trades and things like that. So they also heard that, yeah, like working women, a lot of them, if not most of them, like don't go to an office, but they work on construction sites or on their feet in retail shops and in service industries. So I think that, even Lean In, even if they haven't like responded in the ways, that many in this audience might wish, I think it's very telling that they have like figured out that they've had to pivot a bit. So I think, even again, as I said on their website, you can see there's less of an emphasis on like that individual striving. It's more like, how do we make an equitable workplace where everyone can, I guess, if they individually strive, benefit equally. And then also what you were saying, I think in the last, 7 years, criticism or skepticism, at least, about do what you love is more acceptable in polite society. So like the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, those kinds of publications. And I think, the shift to work-life balance, to some degree wellness, is really reflected in that. I think the New York Times ran an article some months ago by a former Google employee. And I think the title was, "I'll never let myself love another job." And, I think it's a nice arc of these last 7 years where, this woman, the author, was so excited to get a job at Google. She thought she had made it. And then, surprise, surprise, things didn't really pan out, even though she was working incredibly, incredibly hard. And I actually, at the end of the article, she said, I have another job, and people ask me, I think it was like, if people ask me whether I love it, I say it's a job. And that's that kind of thing. I don't think that was really appearing in the New York Times, prior to,
Right. No, it was Sheryl Sandberg op-eds.
That's right. That's right. So I think there have been there's been some evolution in the response to do what you love. But I think it's largely the case that people find, I think the thing that is really difficult to overcome is the fact that in this society, your enfranchisement, like as a public person, as a political person, as a person who enjoys like culture, is largely through, for professional class people, is largely through your role as a worker. So, and I think that is the thing that is the most difficult to wrestle with, is because, if you're a certain kind of worker, like professional, salary earning, like you're the kind of person that politicians are interested in talking to. You're the kind of person that advertisers are interested in. You're the kind of person that the culture industry is catering to and is hoping to attract. And I do understand the unwillingness to let that go. And I think for like one of the things I've realized over the years is that love, it's not just about the tasks of work, but it's about that kind of, civic and cultural capital that certain roles get people who, who are still like precarious in that they need their incomes. So it's all of these desirable things are tied to one's role very often as a worker. And I think the thought of losing that is understandably very anxiety-inducing for people.
If you like this video from The Jacobin Show, please hit like and subscribe and share with your friends. Thanks.